So if you see this diagram of direct, diffuse and total radiations, the total radiations are explained in this diagram. So first, if you see this here, some part of solar radiation is reflected back into the space. You can see in this area, and some part is reflected back by the surface. From the surface of the earth, some part of solar radiation is reflected, and here diffuse scattering occurs. Okay, so after diffuse scattering, we are getting diffuse radiation directly to the surface of the earth. Okay, in this here there is atmospheric absorption, because radiation entering into the atmosphere is partly absorbed by the molecules in the air. So it is called as atmospheric absorption. In this, warming of air will be there. So these are the direct, diffuse and total radiations explained. That are hitting to the surface of earth. So there will be types of days we can consider. So first one is clear day. Clear day means without any clouds. It is called as clear or cloudless day. And when it is obscured by the clouds, it is a cloudy day, we are saying. So the insolation is on a clear day or cloudless day, about 10 to 20% of the insolation is from diffuse radiation we are getting. Okay, so out of 100% on a clear day, the insolation is from diffuse radiation in a percentage of 10 to 20%. Okay, so if it is taken in cloudy days, the total diffuse radiation is considered as 100%. Okay, so the insolation is defined as only diffuse radiation on cloudy days. Okay, so actually we are giving a definition to the insulation. So this insulation is of diffuse radiation and beam radiation. So 10 to 20% of insulation is called as diffuse radiation when it is in clear or cloudless day, and totally the insulation can be called as it is 100% diffuse radiation when it is obscured by the clouds. So when compared to this, when we are talking about the humidity levels, also the insulation is varying. So when the humidity is high, the insulation on a cloudy day is considered as 50% as the insulation on a clear day. Okay, this insulation is also here measured on the same place and time. So when you measure the insulation at one particular place, if you observe the humidity levels at that place in the atmosphere, if the humidity is high, then insolation is 50 times high when compared to the clear day. Okay, so this intensity of the diffuse radiation on a clear day is not equal, or it is not isotropic. It is termed as isotropic, means equal. Okay, so this intensity of diffuse radiation on a clear day is not same, but it varies with some different functioning of latitudes, time of the year, time of the day, and atmospheric contents and other factors also. Okay, so as the altitude changes, these all changes. Okay, so the diffuse radiation, as the altitude changes, the diffuse radiation also changes with respect to latitude and other factors. Okay, next, What is sun of zenith? So this is the position of the sun directly over our head. Okay, so when the sun is positioned directly over our head, that is at perpendiculars, that is at right angles, that position is called as sun at zenith. Okay, so before going briefly into this topic, we will learn about air mass. Okay, so this air mass is denoted by m, and it is defined as it is the path length of radiation through the atmosphere. Okay, so it is the length of the radiation through the atmosphere, and we are here considering the vertical path at sea level as unity. We are taking the vertical path at sea level. At the sea levels, we are considering that it is as unity. It is as one. So at sea level, the value of m will be equal to 1. Okay. So from this we will get the definition of m as m is equal to path of sun rays through atmosphere. M is defined as path of sun rays through atmosphere divided by length of the path when sun is at zenith. So m is taken as cosecant of altitude angle. So this is considered as cosecant of altitude angle except for low solar altitude angles. So for low solar altitude angles, m is not taken as cosecant of altitude angle. For high or medium solar altitude angles, we can consider this m as cosecant of altitude angle. So if you observe different levels at sea level, m is equal to 1. So approximately unity you are taking at sea level. So m is 1. That means that if m is equal to 1, if air mass is equal to 1, that means that sun at zenith. So what is sun at zenith? This sun, when sun is appearing directly over our heads, it is called as sun at zenith. So if m is equal to 1, we are defining this condition as sun at zenith. If mass angle is equal to 2, then zenith angle is taken as 60 degrees. Okay, so if it is 1, it means sun at zenith. If m is equal to 2, zenith angle is equal to 60 degrees, where theta z is the angle subtended by zenith and line of sight to the sun. Okay. Here we are having different types of m. M is equal to secant theta z, theta where theta z is angle subtended by the zenith and line of sight of the sun. So this will be explained in future classes. So m is equal to secant theta z when m is greater than 3. So up to m is equal to 2, the zenith angle is equal to 60. Okay. So m greater than 3, m will be formula secant theta z. So if m is equal to 0 means just above the Earth's atmosphere, it is taken as m is equal to 0. So now we will see what is attenuation and beam radiations. So we are before discussing that in solar radiation we are getting variations. So what are the different reasons for variations means it is discussed as absorption and scattering in the atmosphere. So what is this absorption and what is this scattering we will see now. So first topic coming to the absorption. So when the solar radiation is coming from the Earth's surface, it is absorbed by different waves. Okay. So what are the different ways it is absorbed means at first UV rays, ultraviolet rays present in the solar radiation are absorbed by the oxygen and ozone. Okay. So these UV rays are said to be short waves. It is having only short wavelengths. And coming to the second type of rays, those are infrared rays. These are having long wavelengths. Okay, so these long wavelengths are observed by the moisture and the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So after these absorptions, we are getting the remaining solar radiation. So this type of absorptions both by oxygen, ozone, moisture, carbon dioxides, these absorptions reduce the wavelength of the solar radiations. Okay, so the wavelengths of the solar radiation will be reduced due to the reason of absorptions. So this most of the terrestrial solar energy, what is terrestrial means? Energy received by the earth is termed as terrestrial. So most of the terrestrial solar energy will be lying in the range of 0.29 micros to 0.5 micros. Okay, so finally we are getting with this wavelength. To the earth we are getting the wavelength of 0.29 microns to 2.5 microns. So this is about absorption. Next, what is this scattering? So when the solar radiation passes through the earth atmosphere, water vapor, dust scatters a portion of a solar radiation. So these both water vapor and dust scatter a portion of radiation. This portion of scattering radiation, after scattering, a portion of this scattering radiation reaches the earth's surface. So what is this called as? Diffuse radiation. So after scattering, the remaining solar radiation which is reaching our earth's surface is termed as diffuse radiation. So the radiation finally received by our earth's surface, it is consisting of partly a beam radiation and partly a diffuse radiation. So both radiations, diffuse and beam, are present, which we are getting the solar radiation onto the earth's surface. So this scattering attenuates the radiation. Okay, so the amount of scattering and attenuation will be depending upon the atmospheric conditions. So these atmospheric conditions will also be varying from place to place, time to time. Okay, so if you compare a place, that in that place the amount of scattering and attenuation will be varying from time to time also. So in this month or in this year it will be for one value, means in next year it will be of other value. So this amount of scattering and attenuation mainly depends on the atmospheric conditions and given place, where the place we are measuring, and time. Time means day, month, year, and the local weather also will be dependent. Okay, so first we will see the how the ozone absorbs mainly the UV band. So we know that ozone absorbs mainly the ultraviolet rays. It absorbs almost completely the short wave radiations. So what are the short wave radiations called? We are calling the short wave radiations as ultraviolet radiations in this. So these are observed by the ozone layer, which is located on the top of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, so this ozone layer will be absorbing almost short wave radiations below 0.29 micrometers and it transmits a almost unity above wavelengths of 0.35 micrometers. Okay, next. What will be the water vapors do? The water vapors absorbs mainly the infrared band. So this is the way at this is having infrared bands are having higher wavelengths. So these higher wavelengths are absorbed by the water vapors. So at wavelengths lower than 2.3 micrometers, the extraterrestrial solar radiation is strong. So the solar radiations, extrasolar radiations by H2O and C2O, water and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is strong. So for terrestrial application of solar energy, we are taking the wavelengths only between 0.29 and 2.5 micrometers. So the wavelengths between 0.29 and 2.5 micrometers are to be considered for terrestrial applications of solar energy. So this figure shows the spectral distribution curves. So in y-axis we are taking spectral irradiance in kilowatts per meter square, and in x-axis we are taking wavelength in micrometers. So this is the spectral distribution curve. So this gives the distribution curve. This gives the distribution level at atmosphere and at ground levels, at sea levels, like that, and it gives the diffuse component also. It gives the diffuse component also. Lower bottom are diffuse components, and these are the solar irradiance curves at sea level. This is the sea level solar irradiance curve, and this is the outside the atmosphere. It is having air mass 0, and the sea level is having air mass 1. So at favorable atmospheric conditions, the maximum intensity observed at afternoon on an oriented surface at sea level is approximately 1 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, so at an altitude of 1000 meters, this value varies. So this value of 1 will be rising at 1000 meters height to about 0.5 times. So its value becomes 1.05 kilowatts per meter square at 1000 meters height. And at higher mountains, the value is 1.1 kilowatts per meter square. Again it is increased by 0.5. And for outer spaces, so if you observe this at outer spaces, it is 1.353 kilowatts per meter square. Okay, so later values we can call sometimes as air mass 0. So at sea level, we are observing that the air mass 1. Okay, so the upper curve applies at the outer limit of atmosphere. So this is the outer limit of atmosphere. It is air mass 0. And the lower curve, Earth's surface during clear days for a sea level location of AM1. So this is observed at clear days. Okay, so this dotted curves we are seeing like this. This dotted curves represents black body. So black body at a temperature of 5900 degrees Kelvins. So lower two curves are of this one, this lower curve and this lower curve. It is of diffuse components and clear sky conditions respectively. This is diffuse components and this is clear sky condition. So if you consider the solar irradiation curve or lower or upper curve, the atmospheric transmission factor. So what is this atmospheric transmission factor means? It is the area under the lower curve divided by the upper curve. Okay, so what is this transmission factor? It is the area under the lower curve divided by the area under the upper curve. This gives the transmission factor. So for m is equal to 1.0, the transmission factor will be equal to 0.633. And for m is equal to 5, at Earth's surface, that is sea level transmission factor, that is equal to 0.276. So the length of the sun rays will be affected mainly by reduction of solar intensity. So the length of sun rays in the atmosphere is having a great importance in affecting the reduction of solar intensity. So as seen in the figure, we are getting maximum intensities at noon or at sea level we are getting 1 kilowatt per meter square. That is termed as AM1, air mass 1, and at the altitudes of 1000 meters we are getting 0.05 increase 0. So totally it becomes 1.05 kilowatts per meter square, and at higher mountains we are getting 1.1 kilowatts per meter square, and at outer spaces 1.353 kilowatts per meter square, and this is termed as AM0A, air mass 0. So for the transmission factor we have discussed now. What is the transmission factor? Area under the lower curve divided by the area under the upper curve. So for m is equal to 1.0, the transmission factor will be 0.633, and for m is equal to 5 at sea level transmissions it is 0.276. Next we will go to a main topic. It is having these basic information. So solar radiation geometry. So let us see here various angles which describes this solar radiation geometry. So the first one is phi 1. It is the latitude of location. Phi 1 is located with latitude of location represent, and xi declination, omega hour angle, gamma s it is solar azimuth angle, S represents slope, alpha is altitude angle, and theta z is zenith angle. So under this solar radiation geometry, we will see the diagram and explain all the terms of the angles. So first, we will see an angle theta. So this is the angle between incident beam radiation I and the normal to the plane surface. So then equivalent flux or radiation intensity falling onto the surface is given by I cos theta. So where theta is called as an incident angle. So how we get means, this is the angle measured between the incident beam radiation I, capital I, and normal to the plane surface, that is the equivalent flux or radiation falling onto the surface is I cos theta. So the angle between those both is measured is difference of cos theta. So the incident beam radiation is capital I. The total theta will be, incident angle will be I cos theta. And next one, theta 1. So this is the latitude of location. Theta 1 is the latitude of location. So this is the angle made by the radial line. This is the radial line joining the location of center of the earth, with the projection of the line into the equatorial line. Okay, so this is the angular distance north or south. Okay, so this is the angular distance. If you consider north, it is north, and if you consider south, we can take as south. So it is the angular distance north or south of the equator measured from the center of earth. So from north to equator or south to equator. So this is the angle between OP and OP dash. Okay, so this is the angle between OP and projection OP dash on the equatorial plane. This is called as equator and equatorial plane. So where P will be located on the earth's surface, and this O is the center of the earth. Okay, so latitude for this latitude angle. This is the latitude of location. For this latitude of location, it is measured as positive for northern hemisphere and negative for southern hemisphere. And next angle is this one. This is declination. Declination. Now we will discuss about equinox. What are these equinoxes? So an equinox is an event in which a planet's subsolar point passes through its equator. So what is this subsolar point? We will see afterwards. So what is an equinox? First we have to see the definition. An equinox is an event. It is the time in which planet's subsolar point will be passing through the equator. So what is this subsolar point? Means area where the sun rays coming from the sun shining will be perpendicular to the earth surface, that is at right angles. The solar radiation coming from the sun rays shines perpendicularly to the earth surface. Okay, this is called as subsolar point. So if the subsolar point passes through the equator, it is called one equinox. So the equinoxes are the only time, these are the only times where northern and southern hemisphere experience roughly equal amounts of day and night times. So on earth, in a year we are getting only two equinoxes. First one will be we are getting on March 21st. Every year on March 21st we are getting first equinox, and on September 22nd we are getting second equinox. So equinoxes are merely classified as vernal and autumnal. Okay, so on every equinox we are it is going through vernal and autumnal. Okay, so if you consider the first equinox, when you are getting the first equinox means that is on March 21st. So on March 21st, March equinox is created. So that is called as March equinox, and in that March equinox, first one, vernal equinox, that is termed as spring equinox. So this will be at north, and second autumnal equinox will be on south. This is called as fall equinox. So the March equinox is the vernal equinox in northern hemisphere, and the autumnal equinox in southern. Okay, in March vernal will be in northern and autumnal will be in southern. And coming to the September equinox, the autumnal equinox will be in northern hemisphere and vernal will be in southern hemisphere. Okay, so during these equinoxes, the solar declination is equal to 0 degrees. So what is the declination? Declination means it is the latitude of Earth when sun is directly overhead at noon. So at afternoons when the latitude of the Earth is such that the sun is directly directly overhead. This is called as sun's declination, solar declination. So before and after the equinoxes, the subsolar point will be migrating from north to south, again from south to north. This is a cyclic process. Okay, so you're seeing that in March and September the equinoxes will be cycling from March to September, again from September to March, like that. So if you see after March equinox, the subsolar point will be migrates from north, as because it migrates from north because northern hemisphere will be tilted towards the sun. So which hemisphere tilts towards the sun? The subsolar point will be migrating to that side. So around it will be migrating to north up to June 21st. So at June 21st, the subsolar point hits Tropic of Cancer. So Tropic of Cancer, it is also referred as Northern Tropic. It is the most northerly circle of latitude on the Earth at which sun can be located directly overhead. Okay, so this is mainly occurring in June solstice. So when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, it is the maximum extent. So what is this June solstice means? It is the solstice on the earth that occurs each year falling on from 20th of June to 22nd of June. This is given according to the Georgian calendar. Okay, so like the June solstice, we are having December solstice also. So it is in northern hemisphere. The June solstice will be in northern hemisphere. So this is the June solstice. After that, the subsolar point will be migrating to the south. And after the subsolar point migrates to the south, we will see after September equinox. So it will come under after September equinox. Okay, so in after the September equinox occurs, the subsolar point will be migrating to south as southern hemisphere will be tilting towards the sun. Okay, so on the Earth's atmosphere, it is divided into two hemispheres, northern and southern. So in this southern hemisphere will be tilted towards the sun. So this will be this tilting and this migrating to south. The subsolar point will be migrating to the south until around December 21st. So from December 20 to December 22nd, the December solstice will be occurring. So here the subsolar point hits the Tropic of Cancer and the latitude of Tropic of Cancer will be 23.5 degrees south here. In the March equinox, it is 23.5 degrees north. And this is a December solstice. After that, again the subsolar point will be migrating to north. So this we can see in the diagram. So on y-axis we are taking declination and on x-axis we are taking time of the year. So in degrees and in times, so in days. So this is the variation of sun declination. Okay, so if you observe first, we are taking a date of September 22nd and first it is at 0 and after that December solstice will be occurring on 22nd. So at this it reaches a Tropic of Cancer latitude minus 23.5 south, and after that the subsolar point will be migrating to north. Okay, and here here March equinox will be occurring. Okay, so here up to June 22nd March equinox, and from here south equinox will be occurring. So up to June 22nd until it reaches again the latitude of Tropic of Cancer 23.5 north, it is March equinox, and after that it shifts to the south. Again it reaches to here September. So this is the sun's declination. So declination in degrees can be calculated by the equation. It is given by Cooper in 1969. So declination in degrees is equal to 23.